Dave Weigel of the Washington Post said something pretty interesting on Twitter. This was back on February 7th. I want everybody to take a look. Asked Dems at Retreat Presser if they'll run in 2018 on repealing the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Answer: not really. They'll, quote, restore balance. Joe Crowley, who, by the way, is one of the top corporate Democrats in the country, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is running against Joe Crowley, and she has a real chance in the primary, so please look her up and support her if you can. Joe Crowley said, quote, Democrats are for creating economic security for the American people. We're not in favor of putting the country further out of balance. So a different tone that ours, Republicans, vis-a-vis Obamacare, a different tone than Republicans vis-a-vis Obamacare. We promised to repeal Obamacare, ended up being a bogus promise, but it won elections. So look at what he's saying there. The Republicans, when they campaign, you know what they do? They throw red meat at the feet of their base nonstop. Yeah, you know what we're going to do? We're going to kick out the immigrants. We don't like immigrants. Yeah. And the base is like, woo, yeah, fuck the immigrants, bro. Woo. They're the problem with everything. We're not scapegoating. Woo. So that's what they do. And they say, Obamacare, we're going to repeal Obamacare. That's what we're going to do. We're going to repeal and replace it. It's so terrible. And you know what they could point to? When John Boehner was Speaker of the House, they tried to repeal Obamacare over 60 times. What? Now, compare that to the Democrats. Even when the Democrats have the overwhelming majority of the American people with them, they try once, lose, and then take their ball and go home. So, for example, universal background checks. That's a policy that over 90% of Americans support. Even a majority of Republicans, even a majority of NRA members say, yeah, universal background checks. We're in favor of that. Well, guess what? The Republicans said no when the Democrats proposed it, and the Democrats went, okay, fine. We're going to go away now. No counter argument, no trying again, no doubling down, no being aggressive in their messaging. This is what the Democrats do. And now we're presented with another clear opportunity is what this is, guys. Donald Trump's tax bill, this Republican tax bill, which is now law, you know what the approval rating was? It ranged. There were obviously different polls done on it. Sometimes the approval rating was in the 20s. The highest one I saw was 33%. That's how the American people felt about this tax bill. That's how they felt about it. And so Dave Weigel goes, well, I'll ask the Democrats, because it's the most obvious thing to run on in the world. Are you going to run on repealing this tax bill and replacing it with your own tax bill? Just like the Obamacare strategy that the Republicans had. Repeal and replace. Go hard every day attacking this tax bill. Are they going to do that? Nope. They say literally, no, we're for restoring balance. What does that mean? What does that even mean? What does that mean? Again, I'm gonna bring up the Adam Johnson quote because he says this repeatedly and it's spot on. Democrats need to learn that nobody shows up to a pep rally for a tie. Nobody does that. Can you imagine everybody standing around at a pep rally? Yeah, what are we gonna do? We're gonna tie with the other team. Nobody does that. We're gonna crush them. We're gonna win. That's what we're gonna do. But the Democrats' entire message is, well, yeah, what I would like is maybe if we had some bipartisanship and some negotiation and some compromise, and then maybe we could have some balance, and then I think that would be wonderful if we could sit down at the table with these people that we vehemently disagree with and then meet them halfway, which means that we'll get legislation that we halfway completely disagree with, and I think that maybe that would be a good idea. You can't say the Republicans are crazy in one breath and then in the next breath say, and that's why we should meet them halfway. Because then what you're arguing is, wouldn't it be great and wouldn't it be ideal if all of our legislation was half crazy? That's your argument. But listen, man, the Democrats are fundamentally weak, and there are many reasons for it, but one of the reasons is because of their donors. So at the end of the day, the Democratic donors also want deregulation of Wall Street. the Democratic donors also want their taxes cut. Just go back and look at that clip of the billionaire who was on MSNBC. What's his name? James Klubeck or something like that? He was a billionaire on MSNBC, one of the top donors to the Democratic Party, and he would tell Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, if you don't stop with the anti-rich stuff, we're done with you. We're not going to fund you anymore. To which I say, good bitch, go home. We don't want you. I mean, how fucking arrogant. You're giving money to the politicians and you're saying, I'm going to control you. So then the Democratic Party becomes the fucking James Klubeck party and not what it's supposed to be, the party of the people, the party of workers. But of course, Chuck and Nancy are like, yes, sir. So that Bernie Sanders rhetoric, that Ro Khanna rhetoric, did you sweep that under the rug? Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. And then that's why they go out there and they're not running on a platform of, yeah, we're going to get rid of these gigantic tax cuts for the rich. Of course we're going to get rid of these. Are you crazy? It cuts corporate taxes from 30% to 21% at a time when corporations are already paying a historic low percentage of the tax burden. We're going to get rid of it. It fucking massively slashes the estate tax. The estate tax is just a tax that applies to people with fucking estates, and it's like the top 0.01% of society. That's who they decided to save money for. 83% of the benefits of this bill go to the top 1%. This bill raises taxes on every American making $75,000 a year or less over a 10-year period. Of course we're going to get rid of this. They don't say that. Why? Because their donors also kind of like the bill. That's who loves this bill, rich people. So if the Democrats are beholden to those rich people, it's controlled opposition. So that's why they go out there, hey, are you going to run on repealing this horrendous tax bill that screws over working people across this country? No, we're not. We're going to restore balance. What does that even mean? What does that mean? I'm telling you, man, it's Milton. It's the stapler guy from fucking Office Space. Well, I would like, can I please have my stapler back? I'd really appreciate it. Could I please have the government back? I would like to maybe win an election or two, and then I think it would be wonderful if we did that. But you're not going to get people to vote for you if whenever you have power, you don't do the things that people want anyway. And that's what happens. The Democrats had a supermajority under Barack Obama. They didn't do single payer when they had a supermajority. They didn't even get a fucking public option, which is like the most watered down version that would be acceptable for a healthcare bill. And honestly, that even still wouldn't be acceptable. But it'd be better than fucking Obamacare, which is a formerly right-wing bill. I mean, that's what that was. That Obamacare copied Romneycare in Massachusetts. Obamacare copied a Heritage Foundation bill. I mean, that's what an individual mandate system is. It's the original right-wing plan. So if the Democrats have control and they do Republican policies anyway, then the Democrats aren't going to win. Because when the people are given an option between Republican and Republican light, they're always going to pick the Republican. Because they go, at least that's more authentic. You have to run as liberals, run as progressives, run as left-wingers, unapologetic left-wingers, but they're not going to do that. So, by the way, we checked in on this because I just gave you the Dave Weigel tweets. This was from February 7th. A few days later, Zaid Jilani of The Intercept said, well, let me follow up on this and see what's going on. Maybe, Dave Weigel just spoke to one or two Democrats and they said, no, we're not going to run on that. But now maybe they saw the headlines and they said, hey, maybe we should actually run on repealing this thing. It already, at best, is 33% popular. So why wouldn't we run on that? So Zaid Jilani followed up, and what did he find? Democrats pessimistic on tax cut. We've got what we've got for the next 30 years. They have no fight in them. They have no fight in them. I've pointed this out before, but I'm going to keep pointing it out because it's true. If the Democrats chose to run on virtually any policy issue, they would win in a landslide in the next election. It wouldn't even be close. It wouldn't even... Can you imagine the enthusiasm? How quickly people would come out to vote for Democrats if they, for example, said, our whole strategy for the 2018 midterms is we're going to get you a living wage. We're going to get you a living wage, and we're going to tie it to inflation. We're going to get a $15 minimum wage, tie it to inflation. That's what we're about. And then their whole campaign was built around that. We support Fight for 15. You could point out the examples. There are states where Republicans literally lowered the minimum wage. They lowered it. I didn't hear a single word from a national Democrat about that. You could run a campaign just on that and say, we win. You want to know why? 80% of Americans are already with you. 80% of Americans want to raise the minimum wage. Even most Republicans are with you. That's a clear winner of an issue. You could say these Republicans, they despise working people. You want to raise minimum wage, they want to lower the minimum wage. They're so disconnected from reality. Us Democrats are going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage and tie it to inflation. We're going to help millions of people across this country. That's what we're going to do. Because if you work full time, you should make enough money to survive. That's a duh position. Why are the Republicans against the duh position? Did you know that the minimum wage is actually worth less today than the minimum wage was in 1968? Did you know that? If the minimum wage kept pace with inflation from 1968, it would be about $10.75 or so today. So now it's $7.25. The minimum wage is worth significantly less than it was in 1968. If the minimum wage kept up with productivity, it'd be about $20 an hour today. If the minimum wage kept pace with the wage growth of the top 1%, it'd be $21 today. Point out these things, fight for these things, but they won't do it. That's how they'd win an election. Could you imagine if every Democrat in the country got on the page of, we're going to run on legalizing, taxing, and regulating marijuana. And we're going to attack the issue from every angle. We're going to say, guess what? This is going to create hundreds of thousands of jobs. Republicans, I guess you're against creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. Guess what? This is going to do massive deficit reduction for the respective states across the country and for the federal government. I guess the Republicans are against collecting tax revenue, and I guess they're not fiscal hawks and fiscal conservatives and deficit hawks because they want to keep the deficit high by not legalizing marijuana. I guess the Republicans are against the free market because all we want to do is take this issue, which, by the way, 60% of the American people agree with. They want to legalize marijuana. All we want to do is take that and give the people what they want and create a free and open marketplace. We're the party of freedom. They're the party that's against freedom. Call your Republican politician and ask them why they hate freedom. If the Democrats ran on that issue, they'd crush. If the Democrats all ran on Medicare for all, they'd crush. If the Democrats all ran on this tax bill is a massive giveaway to the rich, it adds over $1 trillion to the deficit, 83% of the benefits go to the top 1%, it raises taxes on everybody making $75,000 a year or less, us Democrats are going to raise taxes on Wall Street and cut your taxes if you're a worker. If the Democrats all ran on that, they'd win. Instead, they have no message. They have nothing. They have nothing. All you get is Trump is bad. You know what the new one is? The Democrats have been, for 4 days now, they've been apoplectic because there was a guy who worked in Trump's administration, in his cabinet, who it turns out there was information that leaked about how he was an abuser. He did domestic violence against his wife. So what happened? Trump fired him. Now, of course, with Trump, there's 1,000 gross things around it, like, oh, he defended him publicly, and he said he didn't do it, and there's clear evidence the guy did do it, and yada, yada, yada. But all you hear from the media and all you hear from Democrats is that story. Oh, there's a wife beater in his administration. Bad people. You're bad people. You know that? Yeah, you're bad people. Why are you focusing on personality-driven drama, soap opera shit? Why are you making it about personalities where they talk about who the people are and everybody knows their names, and then you turn on CNN and the banner has the person's name in it and everything? There's a single mother in Kentucky right now who's trying to pay the fucking light bill and put food on the table. She doesn't give a fuck about your shitty drama. And always try to think for a second, if the story was it was flipped and it was different from the partisan angle, how you'd feel about it. If Bernie Sanders became president and he happened to hire somebody who was a domestic abuser, and then he learned about that and went, oh shit, that's fucked up, and then he fired the guy, we'd be over it in a minute and a half. All of us would be. But now there's some people, the mainstream media is shitting themselves still 4 days into it. Other media outlets online are talking about that nonstop. This is all a distraction from policy. If all you're going to do is clutch your pearls and do the soap opera drama, you're not going to win elections. People are going to go, why are you so unserious? Trump is an idiot, but somehow you're more unserious than he is. At least Donald Trump every day goes out there and says something about policy, even though he's 100% wrong in whatever the fuck he talks about. Jobs, 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 the market, something. He'll say shit like that. He'll tweet about how terrible immigrants are. You don't hear anything from the Democrats about healthcare, about jobs, about the minimum wage. You don't hear anything, foreign policy, nothing. They're not saying end the wars. If the Democrats ran on a platform of end the wars and reinvest that money here at home in a giant infrastructure bill, that would win them an election, but they don't have anything to say about that. So if all you're hearing from the Democrats is, oh my God, mean people, bad people in the administration, and isn't Russia terrible, Russia, 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 well then you're going to lose the election, or at the very least you're going to have mixed results in an election that could easily be a landslide for you. So this is the problem. This is the problem. The Democrats are defeatists. They're corporatists also, and they have no fight in them. They have no fight in them. They're not, I mean, seriously, they're asked point blank, are you going to run against this super unpopular tax bill? And they go, no, we believe in balance and compromise. Literally the worst argument you can make. That's what that is. Because we have all the evidence. The Democrats, we just had 8 years of Barack Obama and that Democratic Party. You know what that Democratic Party was? That Democratic Party did the exact same thing that you're arguing for here. Balance and compromise and negotiation, and we'll work with Republicans. That's what they were all about. And what happened? You lost 1,000 seats. Now compare that to the Tea Party. I disagree with virtually everything the Tea Party's for, policy-wise, but all they did was scream at the top of their lungs about their policy issues. And then they won in a landslide. So you have to counter that by running on your issues in a loud, aggressive way. But they're not doing that. They're barely discussing any policy issues at all. So it's pathetic. It's gross. And listen, guys, all the sideshow stuff about how crazy this administration is with all the shit happening with the different personalities, that's all a distraction. That's all a distraction and a diversion from focusing on the things that would win the Democrats an election.